your vocal mixes aren't sounding professional. It sounds like the music is great and the vocal by itself sounds good, but then as soon as you put them together, it's like ketchup on ice cream. They're both great by themselves, but when you put it together, it just doesn't feel right. It's awkward and not cool. Why do all of these songs on Spotify have that level of vocal production that we're unable to achieve? Well, there is one thing you can do that will always work. But before you do this one thing, you need to make sure that your vocals are good at the source. So if your vocals aren't sounding good by themselves, just click the link in the description and download my free guide called The Ultimate Guide to Recording Vocals at Home. I teach you everything you need to know, from what microphone you should use to how to use compression, reverbs, and delays. It really is the ultimate guide to recording vocals at home. And I guarantee you, if you download that guide, this part is going to come really easy to you. So if your vocals sound good from the source, now we can go on to the next step. All right, let's get into it. So here we have a song that sounds like this.
Like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse. I'm sick of me. I'm tired of you, and I feel shameless. I feel shameless. I feel shameless.
So it's a pretty straightforward pop punk song. And for this, you may be thinking, cool, this should be pretty easy, but it still isn't. You still need to do this on just about every single song that you want to do. If it is a full-fledged production with a bunch of instruments, this comes in handy a lot. So what we want to do is we want to stack vocals. Now, if you already know how to stack vocals, don't click away from the video just yet, because there's some really cool stuff that we do to these stacked vocals that makes it work. So I'm sure if you've done any vocal recording, you have your song and then you have one track that you record your vocals on. So this is great most of the time, but to make things sound a little bit more professional and to make it sound like it sits in the mix a little bit better, there's a couple things you're going to want to do. So number one, you need a really good take. This is going to be your main vocal. So we got this here and it sounds like this.
You'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse. I'm sick of me. I'm tired of you, and
so everything's sounding really good. The vocals tune great, the reverbs and delays sound good, EQ, compression, everything sounds good. But if that's the only vocal we have, it just sounds like it's missing something.
if you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath.
So that one vocal doesn't sound bad, it's just lacking something. So if you have your main vocal and it's sounding good, now we can start adding other vocals. So one thing I love to do is I love to add actual doubles. You don't want to just copy the song down and bring it down. You want to have the vocalist sing it as close as he possibly can, or she possibly can, and then record it to another track. What this does is it gives that like Dave Grohl kind of style, where everything is got that like unison vibe to it. So let's listen to the main vocal here, and then let me add in some of these other ones.
If you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse. I'm sick of me. I'm tired of you, and I feel shameless.
See how it sounds like there's three people singing now? Like I said, I don't want you to just copy it down. I actually want you to record this multiple different times. Now, another thing we can do is drag one to the left and one to the right and make it sound wider.
You'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse. I'm sick of me. I'm tired of you, and
see how that really thickens things up and makes it sound a little bit wider? It really does a good job to thicken up the mix. Now this is where we get a little bit weird. So now we can take some more vocals and now we can start really playing around with them. So this is what these vocals here sound like.
if you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse. I'm sick.
Man, it does sound really, really weird, but in the mix, it really comes out. So what I'm using here is I'm using Vocal Bender and I am pitching it up a full octave, and I am essentially blending it in with the original vocal. So here, let's put this to the center because I have two of them, one left and one right, and I have the same plugins on both.
Don't excuse me, I like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse. I'm sick of me. I'm tired of you, and I feel shameless.
So if you bring in that higher octave with the original vocal, it really adds a sense of clarity to it. And what I do is I have one in the left and then I have one in the right, and I'm doing the same thing on both. You also want to tune the background vocals a little bit harder than you do your main vocals to really give it that extra tight sound. So now we have the melody down and we've stacked vocals on the melody. Now we want to start adding harmonies. We want to add different notes to the original vocal. So we have one here that sounds like this.
If you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath.
And then we have another one down here that sounds like this.
Guilty, if you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath.
We want to make sure that these are tuned really hard, and we blend these in with a little bit more reverb and delay than we would the original ones. So now everything all together sounds like this.
Guilty, if you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath.
So now I just want to take away each layer and show you what it does. So let's take away the harmonies.
Guilty, if you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse, I'm sick of me.
Now let's take away the higher octaves.
Guilty, if you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse, I'm sick of me, I'm tired.
Now let's take away the vocal doubles.
If you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse, I'm sick of me, I'm tired of you.
All right, so now let's have the main vocal just by itself, and then we'll bring in all of the other extras.
Guilty, if you'd excuse me, I'd like to catch my breath. I know it's no excuse, I'm sick of me, I'm tired of you, and I feel shameless.
So use these tricks and tell me how well they worked for you down in the comments below. But like I said at the beginning of this video, before you start doing these tricks, you need to make sure that your vocals sound good at the source. So click the link in the description, download my free guide, and start getting killer sounding vocals today. So thank you for watching my content. Thank you for liking and subscribing. And now, as always, go create.